Hi everybody, welcome to 21st Century Property. My name is Lou Harty and I'm Senior Educator of 21st Century Education. Tonight's webinar we're going to be doing a live interview with Jamie McIntyre, who's a property investor and 21st Century CEO of the 21st Century Group. And we're going to be talking about a strategy known as Landbanking and why we believe that it is the number one investment strategy, and how you can turn in $16,600 into a $275,000 gain. Now that's one point we'll talk about. The other topics we'll cover is why select large regional cities are far more profitable for land banking than capital cities, and we're going to go into the specific of this strategy, which is options, how they work, and the crucial difference between controlling an asset versus owning an asset. Now some of you after tonight's webinar may qualify for some of the land blocks that we've got. So tonight I'm joined by the CEO, 21st Century Education and founder, Mr. Jamie McIntyre. He's been in business with the company for 16 years, educating people on various strategies, financial and emotional, and the four major key areas of generating income, and in particular through property. So tonight he's here with us. Let's bring him on board and welcome him to the stage. So welcome, Jamie. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Lou. Thanks, guys. Great to be here.
So, Jamie, let's get straight into it. Let's just talk about what your view is of the Australian property market and what you see, for the next 5, 10, 15 years with Australian property.
Sure, Lou. I guess if we look at the property market, we only have to read the paper every day to see that everyone has their view. I think it's probably the hot topic at most backyard parties is property prices. If you read the newspaper, you'll see articles saying that the property market's going to crash, don't touch it. You'll see other articles saying, property is booming. So I guess the average person, no wonder they're confused. And the challenge if you get confused and in the property market is confusion leads to fear, doubt, procrastination, and we all know if we procrastinate, we miss opportunities. And I guess if I ask most people listening in who here would have loved to have bought more property 10, 15, 20 years ago in Australia, of course, most of us would say absolutely yes. That's called hindsight because we know how much it's risen in that time, so we're confident and certain about making a decision. If we'd known property was going to rise so much over that period of time. But I guess to become wealthy, Lou, what we do need is foresight and be able to see in the future, predict trends, and have a degree of certainty of what you think's likely to happen so you can get yourself to act now and take advantage of that. Otherwise, in 10, 15 years from now, we would be saying, like many people do, I wish I had have, should have, could have, but basically didn't. I'm fortunate, and not to say to impress you, but impress upon you, that I become a millionaire in my 20s, and that was largely because I got myself to overcome procrastination, fear, and doubt, and a state of certainty, and got myself to act, many years ago, and got into investing, in particular real estate. And my millionaire mentor first said, Jamie, buy property and never sell, and it should double ideally every 10 years, and that's what certainly happened in many cases, not in all cases. Some properties doubled sooner than that, some not quite that. So it is a trick to the trade. But I guess if you read the papers, you've got people, wind back the clock, Lou, to 2008, the credit crisis. People such as Harry Dent, leading economist from the US, Professor Stephen Keen, in Sydney, these academics, the IMF even was saying that the Australian property prices were going to crash 40, 50, 60%. Stephen Keen, Lou, was so adamant that was going to happen. He sold his only property, his apartment in Sydney, and said that if property prices don't crash, that 50-60%, I'll walk naked to Canberra. I'm not sure too many people are excited about seeing Professor Stephen Keen walk naked to Canberra, but he lost that bet, of course, because as we've seen, property prices did not crash. They stabilized, in some areas dropped a little bit and then recovered again. I was invited back on radio, to talk about, share my views back in 2008, and I said, look, I don't believe property prices are going to crash. I think you'll see some cities such as Melbourne rise as much as 20% in the near future, and within 18 months, Melbourne had risen 18%. from a time when people thought the world was almost ending with the credit crisis. Why was I so certain? It's not because I have a crystal ball. You know, the top investors in the world, such as Warren Buffett as an example, they don't have a crystal ball. But what Warren has is lots of common sense and fundamentals. Lou, he understands the fundamentals. So why did I and others have certainty to be able to say publicly with confidence where we thought the property market would go? It's because we understand what the drivers are. And let me ask you a question. What is the greatest driver of population? Of property? I gave you the clue there. It's population growth. I was invited last year to speak at New South Wales Parliament on my vision, not just for political vision for the country, but my vision, economically, where we see Australia by 2050. And I highlighted in that presentation, and this presentation's online, by the way, you can certainly watch it if you wish, but the population growth of Australia would grow to about, from 23 million today to as much as 42 million by 2050. Cities such as Melbourne would double, like from 4.3 million today to 8 to 9, up to 9 million people by 2050. So we live in a country, Lou, with rapidly growing population. That is one of the key fundamentals why I'm confident long term a property price in Australia will continue to grow, and particularly though land prices. Now, Lou, only just today in the Financial Review, Peter Costello, our former Treasurer, said, in an article that he's confident Australian prices will continue to rise over the future. There won't be a property crash because why? Once again, he stated the fast population growth. But he said the reason being is land. It's not so much houses to build in Australia aren't expensive. It's the land component that's expensive. And because of the restrictions on releasing of land, there's a limited supply of land, and the land is so expensive in Australia. That's what drives property prices. And tonight we're going to talk about that, why we are excited about the concept of land banking, because that's where most of the money is actually made in Australian real estate. It's not in the houses. Houses tend to depreciate. Its land appreciates. So fast forward, say, Jamie, that was 2008, 2014. What do you think? Well, about 18 months ago, I sent an email out to our 21st Century subscribers and members, and basically, if you recall reading this, I said it many times that I believe there'll be another property boom in Australia. Good cycle, good timing to be getting in. And then, as we've seen in the last 18 months, we've seen that. But you fast wind back to 18, 20, 24 months ago, most people never expected another property boom. But once again, why was I able to predict that, and why are other successful investors able to do that? It's because we know all the fundamentals that are driving property, and I can teach you those fundamentals, and then you can have certainty. And when you have certainty, you're more likely to act and you're more likely to succeed, knowing there's no guarantees in life. No one knows what the world will be like 10, 20 years from now. But if you're a betting person, there's one thing I'm comfortable betting on, Lou, and that is betting on the increase of land prices in this country if it's in areas that are fast growing population. It's just common sense what's going to happen, and that's why it's very predictable.
Thanks, Jamie. So what you normally do is each year you introduce to our 21st Century subscribers your top 10 investment strategies for the upcoming year ahead. So for this year, you've made a few changes since 2013's past top 10 strategies, and you've got now land banking as your number one. So why is that?
Yeah, sure, Lou. I mean, we do update this, and this is really designed the top 10. You can read all about this on that website, topinvestorsecrets.com, and we do update this every year. It's really given to be a guideline. One thing you'll notice about those top 5 this year that have in common, they're all property strategies. That's because property is predominantly always outperformed, and I've always taught my clients and followers to property should be a fundamental wealth creation strategy. We do teach other strategies, but the core of it should be real estate. Why? Because it's produced the most millionaires out of our clients, and it's worked well for me and others. Land banking has been, Lou, for the last 3 or 4 years. It's been in the top 5, and it's been in the top 3 in most of those years. It's moved to number 1 this year, predominantly because buy and hold Australian property was always one of the top strategies, and it's a great strategy. Buy, like me and our mentor taught me, buy houses and never sell. and every 10 years, ideally, they would double. And we've seen that happen over the last 10, 20, 30 years in most parts of Australia in good areas. Land banking, why I would say, Lou, I put that above the typical buy and hold, as we're going to discover tonight, is it has some key advantages that we'll go into, and that's when you see those advantages, that's why you no doubt would agree with me that it certainly should be very high on most people's list to utilize as a strategy. It's not a new strategy. People say, Lou, what is land banking? Well, land banking has been around for medieval times, but even in Australia, some of the very wealthy people in Australia basically bought up a lot of farmland on the outskirts of capital cities and fast-growing regional cities, and basically sat there and waited for that land to increase as developers come knocking on their doors down the track to develop it and turn it into housing estates. What you might be able to buy a block of land, a housing lot, might cost a few $100 to a few $1,000 when it was bought as a farm. At the time you come around to buying it, if you want to build a house, is going to cost you $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 for something that originally was less than $1,000. So there's massive increase in the value of land in that process of turning farmland into housing estates. And that's where a tremendous amount of wealth will be created. And what we're excited about is that we've been able in the last 4 years innovate a strategy to make it possible, I guess, for the average person to participate in land banking, where generally it's been in the realm of the very wealthy, and you'll see why the average person in the past hasn't been able to do it.
Okay, so land banking, as I mentioned before, is by no means a new strategy. It's been around ever since the existence of urbanisation. So let's talk about utilising this strategy to take advantage of the capital growth, pretty much in its purest form. So why have you chosen land banking as an option for the listeners and our clients?
Sure. The reason, as we said before, remember, it's land that appreciates, and houses tend to depreciate. So if we're looking, you say, well, most people made a lot of money out of real estate in Australia. True, but it's not made the money out of the houses; they made the money out of the land. So as I talked about before, that process of farmland being converted to residential land and then developed into housing lots is adding a lot of value to the value of the land. And you see massive price increases. So the time a young family comes to buy that block of land to build their house on it, they're paying retail $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 for a lot of land that once was, as I said, less than $1,000. So you can see how, and they're happy to buy that because they can put a house on it, increases its value, and then 10 years later, ideally, it's gone up even more. So the key is, if you're able to participate in this, I guess, chain of events from farmland through to a housing estate, the potential profit is enormous. But you say, well, Jamie, are you suggesting that we should go and buy land and wait 7, 10, 15 years for it to go up in value? The problem with that, you'll go, well, first of all, a few problems with that. One, you've got to find where to buy it. And two, generally, if you want to buy land, the banks will want you to put down a 40-50% deposit, Lou. So you have to have a big deposit. And the second challenge you'll have is you have to pay interest on that, and you don't really have any income why that land is just sitting there until it's time to be rezoned and developed in the future. So as a result of that, you're paying a lot of interest. So unless you can see why it's been a domain of the rich, because the rich can afford to do that and just sit on it and wait 10, 15 years. And also a lot of people who aren't patient enough to wait. So you have to solve those things. So the key to solving this is how do you overcome those problems and enable the average person to be able to take advantage of the strategy, not just the rich. The way that we do that, Lou, is through a thing called options. So by using options and the power of option contracts, and they're not necessarily new, but many of my followers obviously learn about options that we taught them in the stock market, but options in the property market as well can be very beneficial. What enables us to do, instead of having to buy a parcel of land and wait and get the bank to loan us the money, we can just use an option and pay an option fee, which gives us the right to purchase that land in the future. So what it means is that, let's say a block of land was worth $150,000 today, at today's prices, we could pay an option fee that would enable us to lock in that purchase price. But let's say the option was, say, a 10-year option. Now, options vary from, depending on what particular option, what particular development it is, 7, 10, 15, even 20-year options. Let's say it's a 10-year option. That means that we lock in today's price for that house lot of $150,000 it's worth today, but in 10 years, what would expect that value of that land to be worth? Well, typically land increases faster than houses, but let's just be conservative. In a fast-growing area, we would definitely say that land might be worth at least $300,000 in 10 years. We can see that when we come to having to buy, or we don't even have to buy, but if we wish to buy it, it's worth $300,000 now, and we can buy it for $150,000 because that's what our option price is. Then we've made $150,000 in capital growth before we've even outlaid any money now to buy it. So what an option enables us to do, Lou, is solve the problems. One, we can lock in today's prices. The best thing is we can buy it effectively without loans. We effectively buy property without borrowing money. And people talk about risky strategies. How risky is this? Well, any strategy where you have to borrow money increases your risk. What I love, Lou, about land banking using options is that I don't have to borrow money. Therefore, the risk factor is very low because there's no debt. There's no interest repayments. Your banks can't call on you and wind you up. Don't need tenants. If you buy a house and sit there for 10 years, you have to rent it out. We're doing this strategy. You're getting all the upside of the capital growth, but you don't have any headaches with tenants. You don't have to pay interest. So you're getting also more leverage than you normally can, because the bank's only loan you so much money, subject to how much deposit you have and your ability to service that debt. If you don't have to borrow, you can actually leverage a lot more into the property market with land banking without any debt risk. I mean, that's phenomenal. That's why the wealthy love this strategy. No holding costs, etc. So obviously there's some things you need to know to be able to do it effectively, but I'm sure if you can get the concept, this is why it's been so lucrative for so long for so many people, and will continue to be as Australia grows from 23 million to 42 million. We're very lucky to live in a country like this where there is so much money being made on a day-to-day basis in land, and that's why, Lou, I think it's one of the most phenomenal strategies you'll ever find, and it's a set and forget strategy too, that we can just lock in and come back in 10 years or 15 years whenever we want and see our profit.
And I think that, before land banking came into existence, or before I actually heard it from you, I actually didn't even know about it. I didn't know what it was, and I don't think I'm alone. I'm not, there's probably, hundreds of thousands of Australians out there that don't even know what it is. So the fact that they can control it with an option, with a long-term settlement, makes it so much easier for people to actually get into. And as the masses get educated over the next few years, it will be a mainstream strategy, just like buying a house and land, or buying a house off the plan. So, so it's good, and the fact that, people will get more and more educated on these. So do you have, do you want to go through the profits and the options of doing this through super? I believe that some people have started to look at securing land blocks in this superannuation fund. Is that true?
Yeah, I guess, estimated profits I covered there a minute ago, I guess, as far as, the simplest example is, let's say you're using an option to lock in a price of land at $150,000 today, but you don't have to pay for that land for 10 years, and in that time it's increased to, say, $300,000 or more. You can see the profit that can be made in that is substantial. That's just a one lot. Obviously, you can buy multiple options, and you increase your potential profits. And some land areas will grow faster than others. So the profit, I think everyone can see the upside. The common question is, can you do it in your super? Well, I can't give you advice on that. There's a lot of issues. Certain regulators don't necessarily want people investing their super in the real estate market. That's mainly because they're lobbied to by the banks and the financial planning industry, which wants you basically put your super into managed funds so they can charge you a trailing commission for the rest of their life. But I think I invest in my super into real estate, and nothing. You certainly can do that. And is there clients using their super money to buy options over land? Absolutely, it's happening every day of the week. But certainly seek independent advice on that if that's appropriate for you, because we can't give you that advice. We've looked at the upside, Lou. Do you want to perhaps, I think it's always important if we're going to be, smart investors, is what is the downside risk? So let's look at that as well. So we should all understand the upside is quite great. Basically getting all the capital appreciation of land, especially in those stages where before it's turned into housing estate that's worth a lot. So the upside's clear. What is your downside? What can go wrong? Well, the good thing about this strategy is that, one, we said there's no debt. So that really limits your risk because you're not borrowing money, you're not paying interest. So really, you can't go broke if you're not in debt. So it's impossible to go broke with this strategy in that sense. But what if, say, the development doesn't go ahead? Somebody will say, well, I'm buying a lot of land with an option to purchase one day where the development doesn't go ahead. Does that create problems? I can't speak for other option holders out there. Now, the downside of this strategy, I guess, is one, it's very hard to get access to. You can't just go, listen to this webinar and I'm excited about land banking. I'm going to go and ring up Harry Triggerboff or, some large developers in this country tomorrow and say, can I option some of your land? And I won't pay for it now, but I'll pay for the land in 10 years. And so I can make all the profit on it. I'm just simply going to laugh at you and you're not going to be able to get access to that. So most large development companies will not allow retail investors, i.e. you, to be able to profit from their land developments, because that's how they're making their profit. They simply tap the stock market, the ASX listed companies or trusts, and they raise capital in the stock market to do this, so they're not going to let you share in the profit, upside profit. Only certain developers, and that's what we've done for the last 4 years as a service to our members, is source and find developers and negotiate and basically convince them to issue some options over their developments to our investors and ourselves. And it's not an easy thing to do, but some developers can be convinced to do it. And if they are convinced, they'll generally only do it on a percentage of the estate, Lou, and they'll only generally do it in the early stages of development. So that's why there's a lot of people that would like to do this. It's just there's a limited supply, so obviously our members have been able to take advantage of it if they qualify, and we do help other people take advantage of it, subject to if there's any become available and if they qualify. So the other downside, if the development doesn't go ahead, with the option agreements that we negotiate or we do on our own projects as well for our members, is that, Lou, they have 100% money back guarantee. So the development doesn't go ahead, option holders simply get their money back. There's a clause with that. And we're aware now there's also on some of the developments that we source, or particularly ours, there's a price protection guarantee as well. That's an additional fee people can pay for. But they can get a price protection guarantee, which guarantees the land increases in value by at least 75% capital growth guaranteed, if they want to pay an additional fee to get that price protection. So the downside is pretty limited, Lou. There was an example of a development that developer went broke, that option holders had options on in rural Victoria, fast growing city. And that was simply, the liquidators simply were able to sell it. And we actually picked up that development because it went broke. We were able to buy it off the liquidator and take it over. So there's a secondary market for developers. If the development goes broke, as an example, another developer will often pick it up and take it over. That's just the nature of the market. In that case, option holders' rights were fully protected, and option holders continue to be able to profit from that. So it's been an incredibly successful strategy the last 4 years that we've been involved in it. and long term we just see this as just a smarter way for people that can get into property without having to borrow, without having to take that excessive risk, and without having to take up your time. I mean, sure, you can make some money in the stock market, but you have to spend a lot of your time generally doing it, and this strategy is certainly, doesn't involve time if people qualify to get access to options.
So what we could do then is let's just go through some of the developments that we've got at the moment now, and as Jamie mentioned at the end, some of you will be able to qualify for some of those. So let's talk about Bendigo, the Bendigo Vineyard. As Jamie mentioned throughout the presentation, we've got these 7 to 12 year land options, and they start at $16,600. And plus we also have other options available, but again it comes down to whether you qualify and whichever investment actually suits you after you've qualified. So we've got 2 different projects going on at the moment, and let's talk about them now, Jamie.
Yeah, sure. Let's maybe focus on Bendigo. If we skip through to that, so this is a brand new project. And these are released in stages. Stage 1 of this has already gone. So to be able to get options is not easy. This is our own particular project. In the last 4 years, we've been negotiating with a lot of other developers to get projects. In particular, now we really focus on getting a lot of our own projects because we control the process a lot more and ensure that the option holders are more protected with the benefits of our option agreements. This project is in Bendigo. For those who aren't familiar with Bendigo, it's a tier 2 city. I call it tier 2 city. I like cities in regional areas that are large, diversified economies and close to capital cities. This is about 95 minutes by freeway from Melbourne. Bendigo, you can see there on the map if you haven't been there. It's a city of about 114,000 population now. Forecast regionally 150,000 by 2030, and it will overtake Ballarat, its population as well. So a lot of people that have never been, Lou, to these sort of cities just assume they're country towns, but they don't realise, I guess, the size of it. Bendigo Bank, of course, is from Bendigo and it's based there. Very large hospital, very large industry, and if anyone knows about the property market, go and Google all this, but Bendigo has been one of the top property spots for buying houses for a very long time because of the good growth. So we like these areas often better than capital cities because capital cities are so expensive to get into, where if you're paying $300,000 or $400,000 for a lot of land today in a capital city, for it to double in value is much harder to do than if you can get, say, a lot of land for $100,000 or $150,000 in a regional city. For that to double is much simpler to do and much more likely. This particular development, we love this development. We're very lucky to get this. This is in a prime spot, borders residential area right now, and we'll be developing almost 600 housing estate on this. 7 to 12 year options these are, Lou. So with developing with councils, you never know exactly how long it will take to develop it, and obviously most developments, they start and they don't develop immediately. They're developed over a long period of time. That's just the nature of land developments. This happens to be part of a vineyard, an existing vineyard, 160 acres, and has a historic bed and breakfast, Lou. It was built in the 1870s, so this is actually a place you can go and stay at. And right now our plans with this is to starting next year, to expand that bed and breakfast, historic bed and breakfast. It's quite famous. This bed and breakfast has been on a lot of the TV shows, the travel shows, etc. You can certainly Google and check it out. You can even go and stay there if you wish, but we'll be expanding that into a resort, a vineyard, Bendigo Vineyard Estate and Resort, it will be known as. It's currently known as Byron's Vale, so if you Google Byron's Vale, you'll be able to check it out online. So this will become a great development, and I've never drank red wine before until I acquired this vineyard, Lou, and I've got to say that red wine's not a bad drop either. So this is only a new development. It's only just released options last month. As I said, stage 1 went. We organised some cocktail parties to launch this, and unfortunately stage 1 was gone before we even held our official launch party. This is the demand that there is from investors wanting these type of options, because it's very hard to get. Even with us, we only release on our developments options on a percentage of the housing lots. Why? Because as a developer, we want to keep most of the housing lots for retail. Because let's say you were to get an option in this, say 150,000. As a developer, we can sell that land in 7-12 years for around 300,000. So most of the land lots we're going to keep, obviously, to sell for greater profit down the track. So that's why it's hard to get developers to release too many options. When they do release them in stages, you really have to be quick, otherwise you just miss out. So you really need to be pre-qualified on our hot list and ready to be able to make a decision when they become available. Otherwise, you just simply can't get access to them. So that you can read a little bit more about that. There's all different variances, Lou, of different option prices. You said they start from 16,600. They go all the way up to pretty much as 69,000 for an option, depending on the different various options. But this isn't a great project. Why did we target Bendigo 1? We know Bendigo is a solid city. It's fast and performs very well with capital growth. You can check out the history of Bendigo as far as the previous capital growth, and that's why we know these areas will outperform many of the capital city markets. That's why we're investing heavily in Bendigo and cities like this, because of the limited land. Bendigo is quite landlocked. And to get good sites that are in areas that will grow. This is a premium product. It will be a premium estate, resort facilities, etc., where much better quality estate than what you'll get in other areas of Bendigo as well. So do some research on Bendigo if you want to get access to that. You'd have to qualify, jump on a hot list, and see if you'll qualify to be part of this project. Stage 2 of this, Lou, will be pretty much gone very quickly as well. So it's just popular, Bendigo.
Well, we were fortunate. We actually took the team out today, out to Bendigo. It took, maybe just over an hour and a half. A nice drive out through the country. It was very lush and in amongst bushland. And as Jamie said, that it's only it was virtually about 7 minutes also to the centre of town of Bendigo. And that's what I really liked about not only the land size, but also the vineyard. And, I tried to take some panoramic shots to sort of give you a perspective. But as I said, our website has got all the information that you need. But it was great to take the team out and show them the developments that we have, and, get to actually walk the site, touch the earth and see what many of these guys have purchased different strategies over the years with Jamie, I myself included. And it's good to actually see and walk and feel the vineyard, see what people are going to be offered, pat the locals. I don't know if the horse was included in that, but the bed and breakfast is exquisite. So if you're looking for that old country style history, this is the bed and breakfast at Bendigo. It's just a really gorgeous classic guest houses there, and the fact that you guys, our members, are able to actually go up to this and have parcels of land in and all around the vineyard, it's absolutely magnificent. So going through the homestead itself, it's just got that beautiful old historic appeal. So it's just a really great setting, and as I said, it's really close to the township. It's not like 50-60 kilometres out. It's like a 5-10 minute drive, and you're there, smack a bang amongst everything, and of course the wineries. So I couldn't get Jamie out of the cellar. He was down there for a while, but do you want to talk more about the trip today?
Yeah, I guess, with different estates, what you're looking for as an investor is predominantly the capital appreciation. So in something like this estate, I said 562 housing estate will be developed there with the resort. So people living there will have that premium, place to live, because it's just a beautiful area in part of Bendigo and close to not far from the CBD. So as an investor, I guess you're looking for, what you want to know is, what's the price appreciation of these areas, and that's why we do our research. We do a lot of research before we invest into a project, because we're the biggest beneficiary of the capital price increase. Because as a developer, when we sell these retail, the more the price has gone up in 10 years, the more that we can sell them to people who are looking to buy a house and land at that point. And obviously, that's what you'll be able to do with the options. So some people will have the question, well, if I buy an option, I'm lucky enough to get an option in some of these developments, can I resell the option without having to buy the land? And the answer is absolutely. The options are fully transferable. You can sell them at any time, particularly when it comes to settling on the land. There'll be a much more active secondary market of people wanting to buy the options. So you can sell the option. Or what I would recommend you do is, in 10 years, as an example, if the land's worth $300,000, you're buying at $150,000. The bank will easily loan you 50% of it to pay for the other 50%, and then put a house on it. It will be worth that much more once you add a house to it and rent out the house, or sell the house and land as a package. It'd be worth even more. So you've got a few options there. What you can do is an example there that Lou showed on the screen of you to buy 3 lots, how to get a free block of land. Effectively, to buy 3 lots of land, you're locking in a price. As an example there, only $150,000 each. In 10 years' time, you'd expect those lots to double in value to $300,000. So you could sell 2 of your land blocks for $300,000 each. You're making $300,000 in profit. You could take half that and pay off the remaining block of land you've got, so you pay it fully off. So you've got a block of land that hasn't really cost you anything, and you just use some of your profits you made over the 10 years, and you'd have $150,000 in cash. That's you can either use towards building a house or do whatever you want with the cash, but you'd be left with one block of land worth $300,000, $150,000 in cash. So you can see how lucrative it can be. I guess if you're not a property investor already, you just really got to do some homework, basic homework, ask your questions to develop that certainty, understand land prices do increase substantially over time, especially in fast-growing areas. And especially in areas that are in fast-growing regional cities, in good locations where there's a lot of demand for housing. With the population growth of cities like Bendigo, like most areas in Australia, they're just not producing enough land to supply the market, and that's why prices are driven up continually, because there's simply not enough land, and there's a growing population, so they have to be able to release more and more land to meet that demand. And there's a massive housing shortage in Australia. Red tape, taxes, whatever you want to blame it on, but generally that's why there's a housing shortage in Australia. As a land banker, we're not going to complain about that too much, because you're going to profit immensely from that, and that's how why land is so expensive in Australia, because there's simply not enough of it for the fast-growing population.
So a few people have asked about the bonus blocks. How do they differ between the other blocks that you've got?
Yeah, sure. I mean, how to get a block of land for $1 effectively. Bonus blocks is what some development companies will do, is that they would reward, resellers if they achieve certain targets, a payment in the form of land. So there's occasionally what bonus blocks will become available. So what you can do with a bonus block, effectively you have to be on a hot list for this. So this is very difficult to get these, but you just have to be a savvy investor and on the hot list and pre-qualified, and when these become available you have to be super quick. But bonus blocks enable the option holder, instead of paying say $150,000 for the block of land, to get it for literally $1. How is that possible? Well, you pay a higher option fee, but these are very rarely available. There's, if they come out, there might be 2 or 3 come out at one time on a particular development, a different stage. and you basically pay an option fee of anywhere, depending on the development, from $39,000 to $69,000. But what that entitles you to is to get that land for $1. So when it comes 10 years time, that land that will be worth, say, $300,000, you only have to pay $1 for, plus you've already paid your option fee up front. So they're incredibly profitable, but they're very rare, and they're just bonuses that are released by certain developers. So you can ask to be on the super hot list. They become available by an email or an SMS, and you'd have to basically bribe your 21st Century Property consultant to give you a chance of getting one of those ahead of other investors.
Okay, so for those people who want to beg now for a priority consultation, you can either come into the Melbourne office, or you can email us and phone in for a face-to-face or phone consultation. The thing is, as we mentioned before, this is a very limited offer. The land blocks sell very quickly, as you've seen from stage 1. Stage 2 is available now, and we do have only limited land blocks. So if you want a bonus block, for example, for $69,000, and you're only paying $1 at settlement, as I said, you have to be first in, best dressed. As you can see there, the prices from the previous stages. Stage 1 sold out, and we're in stage 2 now. But this is a very lucrative strategy, a good long-term capital growth strategy. And as I mentioned, if you want a consultation, then I'll give you the email address that you guys can email tonight to book in over for the next 24 hours. We've got a team of consultants that will be in the office ready to take your call in the morning. Some of you may want to call tonight. I can give you a buzz tonight. But they're the options that are available to you. And that's about it from me, but I'll put you on for a final word from Jamie, and then I'll put the details up where you guys can contact us.
Sure. So hopefully that's been beneficial tonight to understand what land banking is, what my views are on the Australian property market, why I have certainty. And remember, it comes down to certainty. Fear and doubt leads to procrastination, and people simply don't do anything. I've obviously coached hundreds of thousands of people. I've seen people start with nothing, become millionaires from simply motivating them to act over the last 16 years of my career as a financial educator. And I know for myself as an investor how I was able to become a millionaire in my 20s and grow my wealth after that was simply overcoming fear, having courage, and doing my homework and making decisions. And once you understand something, you're more likely to act. So if you're not a property investor already, do your homework, do your due diligence, ask your questions, make sure you really understand it, and ultimately you'll need to take action and do your best to see if you qualify. This is a very what we call a patient strategy. Wealth is created over time. This is not a get-rich-quick strategy. This is like we're talking a 7, 10, 12-year type strategy, and that's why a lot of people love doing it in their super. And if you need help with that, there is a specialist that you can ask the team to put you in touch with, and they can answer all your questions around that. So it's certainly a strategy that is becoming very popular. And we've done a lot of work to make it possible for our 21st Century Property members to be able to share in some of the upside of these developments, and also of course be able to utilize the resort facilities at projects such as this and other projects that will become available in the future. Been great chatting with you. Have any questions, my team will be happy to answer your questions, and good luck with your investing. I wish when I was starting out 20 years ago as a property investor that there was something like this. This just makes it so much easier. I mean, it was so much effort for me to be able to get into the property market when I was starting. I had a damaged credit rating, I had no money. 20 years ago I was in all this debt. I had to convince the banks to loan me money, and I had to scramble and save to get a deposit, and I'm glad I did, but it was so, it was difficult, and with something like this where it really takes, the fact you don't have to borrow money, you don't have to pay interest, you don't have any holding costs, you just sit there and wait, and time will make you wealthy. I don't see how it can get any simpler than this.
Okay, thanks Jamie, thanks for joining us. So guys, visit our website, landbanking.com.au, that's landbanking.com.au. Otherwise you can just shoot us an email if you want a priority appointment in the next 24 hours. Just email me or SMS this number and we'll take it from there. Thanks again for your time, it was a pleasure, and we look forward to seeing you next time.